I had spent 3 years preparing for that night. The engagement ring sat inside my coat pocket, wrapped in a small velvet box. I touched it as I walked through the gallery doors. Clara. No answer. Then I saw her. She stood near the tall windows, and beside her was Julian Cross, the childhood crush I had heard about for years. Clara smiled at him. It was a small smile, but it stopped me cold. Adrian, Clara said when she noticed me. You came. Of course I came. Julian offered his hand. Good to finally meet you. I shook it. You too. He smiled politely. Clara looked nervous. I had never seen her nervous around me before. What happened? I asked. Can we talk somewhere private? We moved into a quiet room behind the main exhibition hall. Rain tapped against the glass. Clara folded her arms. Julian came back yesterday. I noticed. He told me he still loves me. The ring suddenly felt heavier in my pocket. I waited. So? I asked. Clara's eyes filled with confusion. So I don't know what to do. I stared at her. You don't know? Adrian, please don't make this harder. I haven't said anything. That's the problem. She stepped closer. I love you. I do. Then what is there to decide? She looked toward the window. Julian was part of my life before you. I know. He knows my family, my childhood, everything. And I know the woman you became. Her lips parted, but no answer came. I felt something inside me quietly break. Do you want him? It's not that simple. It is. No, it isn't. Her voice shook. I need time. That hurt more than a rejection. I reached into my pocket and touched the ring box. 3 years of planning. 3 years of believing we were walking toward the same future. Then I asked the only question that mattered. If you didn't have to worry about hurting me, who would you choose? Clara froze. 5 seconds passed. Then 10. She still couldn't answer. I smiled without feeling it. I understand. Adrian, wait. Congratulations, Clara. Her face changed. What? You wanted time. I'll give you all the time you need. I turned toward the door. Where are you going? Home. Can we talk tomorrow? I stopped. No. I walked outside. Rain covered the pavement in silver. Behind the glass, Clara remained standing there. She watched me disappear into the storm. That night, she expected my call. There was none. By morning, my apartment was empty. My clothes were gone. My books were gone. Our photographs were gone. The little ceramic cup she had once given me was gone too. Only one thing remained. Our first anniversary photograph. Clara picked it up. On the back, she found words I had written years ago. I thought this was where my life began. She stared at the empty apartment. Then her phone rang. It was my number. But when she answered, nobody spoke. The line was already dead. Clara thought I left to punish her. She was wrong. I left because staying would have meant living inside a museum of everything we had lost. Every street reminded me of her. Every restaurant carried a memory. Every familiar room felt like it was waiting for 2 people who no longer existed. So when the Coastal Foundation called and offered me a project, I said yes before they could finish explaining it. You understand what you're agreeing to? The director asked. I think so. You'll be living on site. That's fine. The nearest town is 40 minutes away. Even better. There was a pause on the other end. You haven't even seen the lighthouse. I don't need to. You might change your mind. I won't. The director laughed softly. You sound like a man trying very hard to disappear. I stared through my studio window at the city below. For 3 years, I had built my life around one person. Now I wanted a place where nobody knew my name. I'm not disappearing, I said. Then what are you doing? I looked at the ring box still sitting inside my desk drawer. I'm leaving. 2 days later, I drove toward the coast. The city disappeared behind me. Then the traffic disappeared. Then the buildings. Soon, there was nothing but dark green cliffs, gray sky, and an ocean that looked angry enough to swallow the road. The lighthouse appeared just before sunset. It stood at the edge of a cliff, tall and battered, with cracked white walls and rusted metal railings. Waves exploded against the rocks below. I parked beside the abandoned keeper's house. The foundation director climbed out of his truck. He looked at the lighthouse, then at me. You still want it? I opened my door. Yes. You know it needs almost everything. Good. He frowned. Good. For once, I know exactly what I'm supposed to fix. He studied me for a moment, then he handed me a set of keys. Welcome to the worst decision you've made this year. I looked at the lighthouse. No. I closed my hand around the keys. The worst decision was 3 years ago. He didn't ask what I meant. That was the first thing I liked about this place. Nobody asked. The work was brutal. The lighthouse needed new windows, new wiring, new stairs, and half a roof. The surrounding cottages were barely standing. The foundation wanted them turned into small residences for struggling artists. I had once turned down projects that were far easier. Now I spent 12 hours a day covered in dust, carrying timber up broken stairs and arguing with contractors over materials. At night, there was nothing to do. No parties, no familiar restaurants, no friends knocking on my studio door, no Clara. For the first few days, that silence felt unbearable. Then something strange happened. I started enjoying it. One morning, a local worker watched me repair a window frame. You're an architect, right? I was. He laughed. You don't stop being one because you moved to a lighthouse. I'm trying to. Why? I tightened the final screw. Because I want to build something that doesn't remind me of what I lost. He stared at me. That sounds like a lot of work. It is. He smiled. Good luck. I went back to work. Weeks passed. The lighthouse slowly changed. Broken windows became clear glass. Rotten wood was replaced. The old stone walls were cleaned. The cottages began to look like homes instead of ruins. And without realizing it, I changed too. I stopped checking my phone every few minutes. Then I stopped checking it every hour. Eventually, I stopped checking it for Clara at all. Or at least, I told myself I had. One evening, rain hammered against the windows. The power flickered twice before going out completely. I lit an old lamp and sat alone at the kitchen table. For some reason, I opened the bottom drawer of my suitcase. The letter was still there. Her handwriting covered the front of the folded paper. Clara had written it when we were 19. I remembered the day she gave it to me. We had been sitting on the steps outside her parents' house. She had looked embarrassed when she handed it over. Don't laugh. I won't. You promise? I promise. It's stupid. It's probably very stupid. She had hit my shoulder. Then don't read it. You just told me not to laugh. Because you're impossible. I smiled at the memory. Then I unfolded the letter. The paper was soft from years of being handled. The words were still the same. No matter where life took us, I would always be the person she came home to. I stared at that sentence for a long time. Then I almost laughed. Promises were strange things. They felt permanent when people made them. They became fragile when people changed. The lamp flickered. I folded the letter again. I could have thrown it into the fire. I didn't. That bothered me more than I wanted to admit. Back in the city, Clara was trying to build a different life. At least, that was what she told herself. Julian was easy to be around. He remembered her childhood stories. He knew her parents. He knew which songs she had listened to as a teenager. He knew the version of Clara she remembered being. One evening, Julian placed a cup on the table. Black coffee, he said proudly. Clara looked at it. Thank you. You always liked it that way, right? She hesitated. Sometimes. Yes. He laughed. You're impossible to please. She smiled because she knew she was supposed to. But when she tasted the coffee, she made a face. Julian noticed. What? Nothing. You hate it? No. You do. She pushed the cup away. I take 2 sugars. His smile disappeared. I thought you didn't. I don't know why you thought that. I heard you say it once. Clara stared at the coffee. Then she quietly added 2 sugars. Julian watched her. Is that better? Yes. Then why do you look sad? I don't. You do. She picked up her phone. Can we talk about something else? He leaned back. Sure. But the conversation didn't change the feeling. Because there were things Julian knew. And things he didn't. He didn't know she hated crowded restaurants. He didn't know she became silent when she was overwhelmed. He didn't know she rubbed the edge of her sleeve whenever she was frightened. He didn't know she needed quiet when life became too loud. I had known those things without asking, and Clara was beginning to notice. It happened in small moments. A crowded restaurant made her leave early. Julian asked what was wrong. Nothing. Then why are we leaving? Because I don't feel well. You could have told me. She almost said, I shouldn't have to. Instead, she said, I'm sorry. Another night, she sat silently beside him after a difficult conversation with her mother. Julian kept talking. Are you angry? No. Then what's wrong? Nothing. Clara, you've barely spoken for 20 minutes. She looked at him. I know. So talk to me. I don't want to. He frowned. I don't understand you. Something inside her tightened. Neither did I, she thought. But she didn't say it. Weeks passed. My absence became something she could no longer ignore. She would see a restaurant we used to visit and remember how I always moved her chair away from the crowded tables. She would order coffee and remember exactly how I made it. She would hear an old song and remember me singing the wrong lyrics just to make her laugh. She started noticing how many pieces of her life had quietly carried my fingerprints, and that scared her. One evening, she sat alone in her apartment. Julian had gone home. Her phone was on the table. My number was still there. She stared at it. Then she pressed call. The phone rang. Once, twice, 3 times. Her heartbeat climbed with every ring. Then someone answered. Hello. Clara froze. That wasn't my voice. Who is this? There was a short pause. Sophia. Clara sat straighter. Sophia who? Sophia Loren. Clara's eyes narrowed. What are you doing with his phone? Another pause. He left it at the studio. Clara swallowed. Where is he? Sophia didn't answer immediately. Clara's voice hardened. Where is he? He didn't tell me to keep secrets. The words hit harder than they should have. Then tell me. He didn't tell me where he was going. You know something? I know he's working. Where? Sophia was silent. Clara stood. Please. The word came out softer than she intended. Sophia finally answered. He didn't tell me to keep secrets. Then what did he tell you? He only told me he wasn't coming back for a while. Clara's fingers tightened around the phone. Coming back where? The city. Clara stared at the empty room. Is he with someone? Sophia sounded almost confused. I don't know. A woman. I said I don't know. Clara closed her eyes. Does he talk about me? This time, the silence lasted longer. Then Sophia said, No. Clara's chest tightened. Not even once? No. The call ended. Clara lowered the phone slowly. For the first time, she understood something she had refused to consider. I wasn't waiting for her. I wasn't sitting somewhere hoping she would change her mind. I wasn't building another life just to make her jealous. I was building a life without her. And somehow, that hurt more. Months earlier, I would have driven back at the first sign that she needed me. Now I didn't even know she had called. The next morning, the sea was violent. I stood on the lighthouse balcony while waves crashed against the cliffs. My phone buzzed inside my pocket. I pulled it out. For a moment, I stared at the screen. One missed call. Clara. My thumb hovered over her name. The old instinct returned. Call her. Ask why. Hear her voice. Find out if she needed me. I almost pressed it. Then the lighthouse keeper's door slammed below. Hey, the worker shouted. You coming? I looked at the phone again. Then at the ocean. I'll be there. I put the phone away. The decision was simple. Not because I didn't love her, but because loving someone didn't mean I had to keep standing in the same place waiting for them to choose me. I went downstairs. The new staircase was almost finished. The walls were being painted. The first artist was arriving next week. For the first time in months, I looked around and saw something that belonged entirely to me. Not Clara. Not the past. Not the future I had imagined. Me. I had spent months thinking I was running away. Maybe I wasn't. Maybe I was finally running toward myself. That night, I stood alone beneath the lighthouse beam. The ocean stretched into darkness. My phone remained silent. Then, somewhere far behind me, a car stopped on the gravel road. I turned. Headlights cut through the darkness. A door opened. A woman's voice carried through the wind. I know he's here. My body went still. I knew that voice. Clara. She had found me, and before I could move, the headlights went out. Darkness swallowed the road. Then Clara said my name, not angrily, not proudly, like she was afraid I might disappear if she said it too loudly. I need to know if I've already lost you. I stood beneath the lighthouse beam, unable to answer, because for the first time, I wasn't sure I wanted to be found. The lighthouse changed me slowly, not in the way people talk about change. There was no morning when I woke up feeling like a different man. No sudden peace. No miracle. No moment when the past simply stopped hurting. It happened in smaller ways. I began noticing the sunset. The first time, I stood outside the lighthouse with a wrench in my hand and watched the sky turn orange behind the water. I had no reason to stop working. I simply did. The waves crashed against the rocks below, throwing white foam into the air. The wind carried the smell of salt across the cliffs. For once, nothing needed fixing. I stayed there until the sun disappeared. The next morning, I noticed the cold. The morning after that, I noticed the sound of gulls fighting over something near the harbor. Then I noticed how satisfying it felt to repair something with my own hands. A loose railing, a broken window latch, a rusted hinge. Things broke here all the time. And instead of pretending the damage wasn't there, I fixed it. Maybe that was the strangest part. Back home, I had spent years pretending broken things could still look whole if nobody talked about them. The lighthouse didn't allow that. Every crack showed. Every loose bolt made noise. Every damaged piece demanded attention. I understood that better than I wanted to. 3 weeks after I arrived, Sophia came from the city. Her car stopped outside the lighthouse just after noon. She stepped out carrying 2 folders, a camera bag, and a paper cup of coffee. She looked up at the tower, then at me. Still alive. I was planning on disappointing everyone. Good. That means the isolation hasn't destroyed your sense of humor. She walked toward me and held out the coffee. Black. I took it. You remember. I remember everything. That answer stayed with me longer than it should have. She opened one of the folders. The studio approved the restoration budget. That's good. The paperwork needs your signature. Leave it inside. She studied me. And what? You asked about the studio last time. You haven't asked once today. I trust you. Her expression changed. Only slightly. But I noticed. You trust me? Don't sound so shocked. I've been waiting 3 years to hear those words. I smiled. She smiled back. Then she closed the folder. I also brought photographs. She spread them across the old wooden table inside the lighthouse. Images of the studio, the gallery, the city streets, people I had once seen every day. Faces that belonged to a life that already felt strangely distant. Sophia picked up one photograph. Do you miss it? The city? The old life? I looked at the photograph. I missed parts of it. Which parts? I didn't answer immediately. The parts that existed before everything became complicated. She put the photograph down. She didn't ask about Clara. That was why I trusted her. Most people heard silence and tried to fill it. Sophia heard silence and left it alone. She came back several times after that. Sometimes with paperwork. Sometimes with photographs. Sometimes with nothing important at all. She never asked about Clara. And somehow, that made Clara's name feel less powerful. Then came the storm. It arrived without warning. By late afternoon, the sky had turned almost black. The wind hit the lighthouse hard enough to make the old windows rattle. I had been inspecting the scaffolding outside when Sophia called from below. Get down. I'm almost finished. That wasn't a suggestion. I smiled despite myself. I'll be down in 5 minutes. Make it 2. I turned back toward the upper platform. The metal support beneath my foot shifted. For 1 second, everything stopped. Then the support slipped. My body slammed against the platform. Pain shot through my hand. The wrench fell through the scaffolding and disappeared into the storm below. Stay there. Sophia's voice came from the ground. I looked down. She was already climbing. I'm fine. Don't move. I'm fine, Sophia. Stop saying that. She reached me seconds later. Her hair was soaked. Rain ran down her face. Her eyes went straight to my hand. Blood covered my palm. Her expression hardened. What happened? The support moved. No. I mean, why are you still standing? Because sitting down won't repair it. She stared at me. You could have broken your wrist, but I didn't. That isn't the point. She grabbed my arm. Come inside. I can walk. Then walk. I followed her. Inside, she dragged the first aid box onto the table. Sit. I can do it. I know. She opened the box. But you're not going to. She cleaned the cut carefully. The storm hammered against the windows. I watched her hands. She was angry. Not frightened. Angry. You do this all the time, don't you? Do what? Act like pain is an inconvenience. I don't have time to complain about every injury. That's not what I said. She wrapped the bandage around my palm. Tighter. Fine. She stopped, then looked directly at me. You say that like someone who has forgotten what fine feels like. The room became very quiet. I had no answer. Sophia didn't push. She simply finished the bandage and closed the box. Then she sat across from me. You don't have to tell me everything. I know. But stop pretending nothing hurts just because admitting it would be inconvenient. I looked at the bandage. I've been doing it for a long time. I know. How? Because I do it too. That surprised me. She looked toward the window. I just hide it better. For the first time, I wondered what Sophia wasn't telling me. Before I could ask, lightning flashed across the glass. She stood. I'll make coffee. I thought you brought coffee. I brought one. You're making another? After watching you nearly fall off a lighthouse. I deserve one. I laughed. She smiled. The storm continued outside. But inside, something had shifted. Not love. Not yet. Something quieter. Something more dangerous. Trust. Later that evening, the rain finally weakened. Sophia left after checking the bandage twice. Don't remove it. I won't. Don't work tomorrow. I'll think about it. That means yes. You're becoming bossy. I'm becoming tired. She reached the door, then turned. Good night. Good night, Sophia. The door closed.